Actually, the journey has just begun.
Just me.
That was the meme I remember.
That dating is a doomed business in India.
Then you discovered that हमको शक्ल देख के right swipe करना है. Trauma bonding.
Because offline, you end up stalking. That's like the worst thing that you can do.
How do you identify a gap in the market?
The philosophy was that you don't need to go to the gym to feel fit.
The holy grail in Wakefit became that boss don't listen to what they're saying.
अगर कोई vlogger bathroom की तरफ जा रहा है, सोचो Mamaearth आ गया.
Starting offline shittily is worse than starting offline.
Totally agree to that.
ठीक है, आधे startup यही बंद हो गए. ठीक है. First hero product to be very successful to build trust with consumers.
Google tax and Facebook tax is nuts. Someday it's going to kill us.
The pressure on CAC increases if your repeat users aren't strong enough. Between consideration and conversion, influencers work really well. Really well. Right?
Ghazal, I'm here as a shareholder, okay?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm answerable.
Before we start rolling, we were just discussing about how has life changed post IPO.
Yeah, so I think life changed much before IPO itself. The moment we filed DRHP, we were
What is DRHP?
So DRHP is something that you submit to SEBI. That's a document that SEBI needs to go through, verify the data that you've put in, make a business case, and then they give you an approval for you to file RHP, which eventually then takes the company public.
Got it.
So it's an entire process. And usually when companies submit their DRHP, it's a moment of pride, especially for startups, right? That it's a big milestone you've achieved and it's a lot of hard work as well. 31st night, New Year's, in Goa, where everybody's partying and there are firecrackers in the sky. We were sitting like this.
Happy New Year!
And we were like, this was supposed to be such a big news for us. Like, what did we do? What went wrong? And I think New Year started on that front. First is when Varun came back. I stayed there with the kids, but he had to come back to figure things out. Ki hua kya hai? Matlab, what suddenly changed? Business was what it was. It was being appreciated until like 5 days back. In a day, just filing the papers, what could have gone wrong? What changed?
That's when you realize that actually the journey has just begun.
Just the roller coaster journey, I would say, began there, and then it went on till we went public. I think.
So net New Year's at home.
I don't think I'm going anywhere. Yeah, especially not filing anything with anyone on New Year.
पूरे segment पे dramatic music चलाना और इसी को intro बनाना. Welcome to the Next Level Podcast, guys. My name is Tanmay and I'm here with three really top D2C founders. We have Minu from BlissClub, Chaitanya from Wakefit, and Ghazal from Mamaearth, of course. Guys, the purpose of today's podcast is very simple. I want to start a D2C company at some point, right? And I just want to learn from all of you guys, all your journeys. But before we start, could you tell us a little bit about how did your companies begin? We'll start with Chaitanya. Tell us about Wakefit. How did the idea for Wakefit come about?
There's no big insight. There was no dramatic aha moment. I had gone through 2 failed startups. The first one was in the dating matrimony space.
Yeah, it was Truly, Madly, Deeply, right?
Yes.
The Savage Garden song. Were you a fan?
Yes. Not a fan of the song per se, but it fit the context. So did that. Realized that dating is a doomed business in India.
Yeah, by the way, Chaitanya's background is fascinating, right? Chaitanya, can you tell us a little bit about before Truly Madly as well? You were in consulting, and before that you were doing a bunch of stuff.
Computer science engineer.
Yeah. As far away from dating as you possibly can be.
What got your interest with dating that you wanted to build a startup around?
Actually, there's a long story for that. But a computer science engineer, worked as a techie for a few years. But like all engineers, you figure out what to do with your life after you graduate. That was just for time pass. And once I did that, I quickly realized that I didn't enjoy that, being a techie. So got into ISB, 2005 batch.
Okay.
Then immediately got into management consulting. So for the next 6 years, I was in the US and Canada.
You're following the script.
So completely did that. Loved every moment of it. But at some point, I felt if I'm working so hard in consulting, maybe I can work hard for myself. And one day I'll create a very big company. As naive as it was, I had 2 failed startups after that. One was in the dating space. There the insight was India was ready for meeting people on psychological compatibility. eHarmony was doing very well in the US. So we designed a whole psychology framework where you said if you're a single, you match with your partner through these psychological things where you play games and that results in some kind of a score on a framework and then you match with a compatible person.
And then you discovered that हमको शक्ल देख के right swipe करना है.
This is what year?
Shakal and caste.
शक्ल and caste, correct.
So
What year was this?
This is what year?
2011.
2011. And do you think India is ready for something like this now? Today?
I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I started by saying dating is a doomed space in India. So once that shut down, started something called New Love Times.
New Love Times, okay?
Yeah, just like you're saying, New York Times. So we said we should do, that was content to commerce peak time.
Okay.
So we said, let
This
us.
is what year?
2012.
2012, okay.
Yeah. So 2012 to 15, I did that. Where the idea was, if you take a woman's journey from puberty to menopause, anything she would require, we should have a trusted source for that. And there should be experts writing and creating those content pieces. And brands would then come to engage with that audience.
Got it. So branded content play with eventual hopes for a product.
Correct.
Got it. So BuzzFeed like. at that
True
point.
content to commerce.
Yeah, and 2012 was peak.
Yes.
BuzzFeed also raised like $300 million and whatnot at that point.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. So how do you go from that to let's sell mattresses, right? Wakefit was at 2016-ish,
Yeah. 2015 end.
2015 end. How did you stumble upon that?
Frankly, it was not my idea. What had happened was I had shut down these two startups and I was down to my last 800, 900 rupees. So I took up a job. And in that job, I met my current co-founder, Ankit. And Ankit came from the foaming industry.
Foaming industry, okay.
Yes. And he joined that startup because he had shut down his startup. So we said, bhai, 8-year gap, but journeys are very similar, friends. So we so we became friends.
Yeah, trauma bonding.
Founder dating.
Founder dating. And all of this happened at our local chai point in the campus.
Okay.
So we used to meet up every evening, take a break, and then we used to chat. So and that was the time Ankit was getting married. And he went to the market and he came back surprised saying that, boss, something is off. Because I know the cost of raw materials of foam. I know the labor. The prices at which they're being sold. I was always buying unorganized, unbranded products because I was in college till now. But there's something off. So the first thing we do is you go look at annual reports saying that, oh, these companies must be making huge profits. You go and see they're not making profits. So customers are paying a lot. It doesn't cost so much to make. So where the hell is the money going? So it was the channel. So the channel had 3 to 4 levels of middlemen.
Okay.
And it was going up, taking about 45% of the price that the customer was paying was going in the channel.
Oh, okay.
So we said, okay, let us try it out. At best, it'll be a lifestyle business 5 years later of 20-30 crore. But it's our third attempt, his second attempt. We'll just see where it goes. But here we are after 8 years.
Awesome. Fascinating, no? Like,
Very.
founder stories are always interesting. I'd love to know. I'd love to know the story before BlissClub and how did you reach BlissClub? Please start from the very beginning, like we started with Chaitanya as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, in some way, started in finance. My dad was a banker, always wanted to be my dad's boss. So from when I was a kid, I was like, who's your boss? He's like, GM hai, to mujhe GM banna hai. And yeah, so like was very clear that I want to be in finance. So was in finance for the first 5 years of my life. So again, like accountant, was working in Goldman Sachs, Wipro, HUL, all in core BizFin functions. And at some point in time,
Exciting.
was like, yeah, very, very exciting. Excel sheets all day, was high on Excel sheets. But yeah, I think at some point in time was like, I want to be closer to consumers, want to be closer to the action, because somewhere it was always like the support function, seeing everything from the side, but not being in the center of things. Also went YSB, 2016, 2017. And yeah, like you go to B school to discover yourself. And actually found my calling in marketing. So made like a 360 degree. Very few people get to make this kind of a shift from core finance to core marketing. So moved from business finance to brand
Those are
marketing.
two separate personality types.
Very. So moved to brand marketing. So I was working in AB InBev before, which was, I was a brand manager for their import portfolio of beers. So it was great. We used to get free cartons of beer every month, literally. So like Corona, Hoegaarden, Stella and Left, these were my brands. So also the nice expensive ones. And then moved to PhonePe. I've been
That sounds like the real BlissClub, to be honest.
Yeah, but I've been in Bangalore for the last...
And then you went to PhonePe, you said.
Yeah.
So you had a cushy job at PhonePe.
Yeah.
You decided that, I'm too happy.
Yeah.
I want to too comfortable.
I've been in Bangalore for the last 16 years. Like, enough said. Everyone's starting up in Bangalore.
Correct.
Startup kar rahe, ya first employee startup, or wanting to start up, or thinking about starting up. So always had this bug of wanting to do something of my own. And decided like this is the right time. Let's try it out and see what happens. So yeah, that's
awesome. By the way, we've created NextLevel Profiles for all you guys. I'm going to read out Ghazal's because there's some stuff in it that I did not know. Ghazal, you are a corporate trainer turned artist. What is the artistry?
So I've trained from New York Academy of Arts. I was selling my works nationally, internationally before starting Mamaearth. So like a artist who wanted to do that for the rest of her life. That was business and passion coming together.
Got it. Okay. And then a mompreneur, and the intention is to change the beauty landscape of India in this digital era by understanding consumer needs and catering the same. Wow, nice profile.
Wow.
Yeah. Minu's is building BlissClub, India's foremost women-centric activewear brand. An ultimate frisbee player that's trying to solve for an understated and overlooked problem of women's activewear clothing in India. And Chaitanya, 19 plus years of experience spanning entrepreneurship, management, consulting, and marketing. Currently advise startups on various aspects of product marketing, growth, and funding strategies. Mein Wakefit kidhar hai? Ye mention karna bhool hi gaya. Oh, it says co-founder Wakefit. Okay, if I wanted to start a D2C brand, and I've thought about it a bunch, and whenever I ask some of my founder friends or VC friends, the first thing they say, "Bhai, bahut mushkil hai." Right? So then they ask me saying, what would you want to start off with? And I ask myself, say, okay, how do you identify a gap in the market? In your case, I know at least the legend is that, you were trying to solve for your own child, and that's how you stumbled upon Mamaearth. Is that true? Could you tell us, how do you find a gap in the market, and how did you find the gap?
So for me, it was a personal problem that I was going through, like you said.
But not everyone is lucky that way.
No, I was also not lucky, by the way. Let me tell you how it happened. It wasn't like I was thinking about creating product or doing something about it. I was a first-time mom who was overwhelmed with the child that she had to take care of, which did not come with a manual. And I didn't know how to operate that child. And there are a lot of things that you need to figure it out while you're raising it. And constant cribbing around kids should come with manuals, because it is not easy for a first-time mother to figure.
That's a startup.
Like, why? There could be so many different reasons of why the baby is crying, what's happening, right? You yourself are going through so many physical changes, mental changes, identity crisis on what I was, who I was as a person, and what have I become suddenly. There is so much going on. Uske upar, as little a problem as, because the baby is getting rashes, he cries for 3 to 4 hours consecutively. And it took me about 2 to 3 months to understand why were those rashes happening. To finally figure when the doctor said that, okay, change the products that you're using. And I was a hoarder. I still am on a few categories, but I love to hoard stuff and be very comfortable with the fact that I have excess of it, so I'm not going to run out of it. Purely because I was so scared that if I run out of, say, a body wash or a shampoo, my baby will start crying again, and I don't want to go through that pain or the pain that my baby has during that time, right? So, but I also came from a middle class family back then. So महीने का एक कोटा होता था कि 30,000 का खर्चा है, इसमें राशन भी आना है, इसमें जो है ये supplies भी, everything needs to be taken care of in that 30,000 bucks. And this ended up consuming a lot of my money, which was uncomfortable. I had to give up a lot of my usual stuff to be able to afford that. That was one pain point. And I think the second pain point was that as simple and basic products as these shouldn't be so difficult to find. And the more I talked to people around me who were also our friends and fellow parents, etc., I realized that nobody was trusting one, brands in India. Second, when I was in New York for my art education, that time there was this movement going on where this certain large brand ke products were being lifted off the shelves because they contained cancer-causing ingredients in them. And I had one of those products in my vanity as well. So I stopped using that. But suddenly when I had my child, I could relate that oh my God, 70% of the gifts that I'm getting are from this particular brand. And India doesn't have any regulations, while countries outside of India have clear regulations कि यार ये ingredients हैं जो बिल्कुल baby की skin पे नहीं use करने हैं. India had no regulation, and all of those ingredients which were banned in countries outside of India were being used in India. That was my trigger. Not to create something, but to become like a very, very cranky wife who kept complaining to everybody, especially Varun, right?
So the problem was staring right at you, actually.
The problem was right there in my face, right?
Yeah.
I was going through it, and I had at least 5 more parents around me who related to what I was saying. I think that is where the journey started from. And
So even when you had a feeling that maybe the TAM isn't as large, you still went like, let's just dabble in it and see.
Yeah, मैं उस time पे TAM तो मुझे पता भी नहीं था होता क्या है. I was like, I started with as little as that even if we are able to help 10,000 parents in India with products that cost anywhere between say $200 to $300, my job would be done. इतना छोटा सोचा था. It wasn't anything else. It was far more about solving it for myself and the people or the friends that I had around me. Of course, the more I got into it, I started to understand consumers, not just these limited set of people that were around me, but more people, more parents. That awareness increased. I understood the fact that people are actually ready to pay a premium if provided with the right kind of proposition. Like South Delhi में एक toy store था. We thought we'll get inside the toy store, we'll ask the manager to help us give some space, and every parent who will be walking in, we'll talk to them. These are like the ones that would have affluency towards spending a little extra to get premium quality products, right? दुकानदार ने घुसने भी नहीं, पैर भी नहीं रखने दिया अंदर कि आप कौन हो, क्या कर रहे हो, like out. तो हम उसकी दुकान के बाहर खड़े हो गए. That was like the walkway. So यहाँ से तो आप मना नहीं कर सकते हो, ये public area है. And we started talking to every parent who was walking in that store. We had these handmade products जो हमने घर पे बैठ के बनाए थे, label घर पे बैठ के बनाया था. We asked them to, one, check the texture, fragrance, how were they feeling about it. Second, most importantly, the proposition, that did they understand toxin free? What are we doing? And very interestingly, you know, while we were talking about toxin, हमने pack पे लिखा था paraben free, sulfate free. And this one mother comes to me and says that they say something is free. What is the free product that you're giving? That's what hit us so hard, that it is not going to be easy getting into a category.
हमने कहा free toxins मिलेगा. कहाँ है free toxin?
No free toxins, right? But like, I think that one market visit or that one consumer survey taught us so much about us as Indians, our awareness levels, and even about the category. It was just that one, parents will not trust you just because you're a new brand saying we are good. They won't buy you. They're not even ready to test the products, right? You have to convince them. You have to tell your story. So a lot of education around that needs to happen. The second thing that
we'll get to that. We'll get to how you started crafting the brand. I want to quickly get in Minu's story as well. So Minu, like, okay, in their cases, like, okay, stumbled upon, you know, his work wife and realized that, okay, this is the clear problem statement.
Yeah.
Your story is interesting because you were like, I want a startup.
Yeah.
Right? It's more similar to where I am.
Yeah.
In the journey.
Yeah.
How does one start off not knowing, I don't know what problem I want to solve.
Yeah.
I don't know what product I want to do. How did you come about, you know, women's activewear? Or I don't know if I'm getting that right. That's how you stumbled. How did you find the gap?
No, for sure. And I think a lot of people, and I am very passionate about like BlissClub. I'm very passionate about being active. I'm very passionate about like the whole trend of health and fitness, which is going to change the world, which I believe. But BlissClub wasn't really like a passion project. It didn't start with that, right? It was, I would say, pretty calculated. It was a calculated risk I took in life. I was a finance person, like I said, so I had an Excel sheet where I really just put down my personal problem statements, like what are the issues I had. And there were 3 in that. 2 of them I actually explored before I narrowed down. So the first one was I love eating. I'm a foodie. And I would never find like really nice stuff. Like a lot of things which were really, really good were home bakers, like women who would make out of passion, but there was no discovery for this. Obviously before Swiggy and Swiggy Minis now, which is my best friend. But at that time, the whole idea was, hey, what if I create a platform for home bakers so that people like me and like people can start discovering things beyond restaurants. So that was the first thing I explored.
Beyond restaurants, what a nice thing.
Yeah, there you go. Branding's already done for that. Someone can start it. The second thing was actually in edtech. Not something I related to a lot personally because I don't have kids yet. But it was something which stuck with me from my childhood. So I grew up in the Middle East. I grew up with education which was very different from when I moved back in 9th standard, where we had science labs. We could actually, when we learnt about lungs, we got a sheep's lung and we blew air into it, and all of these fun stuff, right?
What?
yeah, it was just very hands-on education, like very science lab first. Versus when I came to
We
India,
got balloons.
I didn't even get balloons. Like I felt we just had textbooks, and I was like mugging something, vomiting something in exams. It didn't make sense. I was like, hey, like the first few years of mine was so fun. It was so formative for me to learn and grow. What if we can recreate that magic in India? But that was the second idea. And then the third one. And so I went after each idea. I have a framework in which I evaluate an idea. And
So one was platform, the other one also platform, and the third one was...
BlissClub. The way to look at it was, before I did this, like it was just, I was part of the consumer research team in marketing, and so kind of used that learning to figure out which idea I wanted to go after. So we had a specific format we followed. So qualitative, which is speaking to consumers, like you would have done with the mothers. It was the same thing. I would stalk people, just understand, go to like parents and ask them like weird things about how their kids are studying. Quantitative, where we would look at like surveys, like use Instagram to run polls and things like that. Speaking to industry experts, and I remember with BlissClub as well, I spoke to you, Chaitanya, like when I was thinking about D2C and looking at competition. So these four kind of become this framework which we use even now in BlissClub and how we evaluate like new ideas that we explore. But so went through these two ideas and then came to BlissClub. The idea being that the personal problem statement I'd written was I would never find great quality activewear in India, and I've always been an active person. I play a sport called Ultimate Frisbee. I used to play for a club in Bangalore, and a lot of times I would buy like men's clothes. Like I would go to Decathlon and buy boy shorts because they were knee length and not like hot shorts that other bigger brands had. And started looking at like how things were changing around the world. Again, relate to a lot of stuff that you said, but in the US, there are so many brands building for women, and where activewear really wasn't just meant for the gym, but becomes part of your life. Like the fact that you want to wear comfortable technical clothes through the day, which are your great basics, was what really excited me. The fact that, hey, joggers, sweatpants are no longer meant only for the gym. It's becoming part of people's wardrobe. But there's no one building that first in India. I think went deep into it, got very excited by the fact that, firstly, I think even brands, right? Like from being such an unbranded country to having brands come up early in the days, like with, I think Wakefit, Mamaearth, all of these were like the OGs of the D2C industry. I think it was like, hey, there's something happening. It makes sense to build here. It's ticking off like the fact that there is a big problem to solve for. It's ticking off the fact that this is a category of the future as well. Like health and fitness is a narrative that picks up as an economy grows, and feels like there's a large space to build here.
But frankly, the research part, that is what led me astray in my first two startups. Because customers say something in the focus groups, say something in the in-person interviews, but behave very, very differently. So for me, the holy grail in Wakefit became that, boss, don't listen to what they're saying. See how they're behaving. See where they're opening up their wallets. For what do they want to seem smart and explain a nice answer? And for what do they actually believe for their daily life? So very different. So we
Can you give an example in Wakefit's journey?
In Wakefit, all the interviews, initial discussions said sleep quality is the most important. So give me a great product. As long as my sleep quality is improving, I'm not worried about anything else.
I'll pay whatever you want,
Whatever.
as long as I sleep.
Then we launched the products, and customer said, "Was your packaging? It came.
सिर्फ 6 घंटा तो सो रहा हूँ, इतना क्यों ले रहे हो?
It came in a cardboard box. What is this? I lost faith in your product. I lost faith in your company. So then we said, okay, go fix this packaging. Then they said, this is all fine, but my baby peed in the first 7 days. But then this product has to last me for 10 years. So I'll have to sleep on that stain for 10 years. So we said, okay, let's go launch protectors as a category, which was not there in India. So what they actually want, how they want to ask for it, and what they actually behave when they pay for it are very different. So I think what they say and what they don't say, both are equally important, I guess.
Guys, like D2C as a category, right? Like everybody wants to have their own brand, right? Like, so I want to ask you guys, if there's one or two things that are the most critical questions to ask before you think of launching your own D2C brand, which is one is that not everybody is clear about what a problem that they have. So should you go for a large market? Should you go for a market where there aren't too many competitors? Should you try to solve a personal problem? Like in terms of priority for how to think, what would you guys mark as this is what you should prioritize? Because sometimes a problem you have is just not a large enough market. Sometimes a large enough market, but there are a lot of players. Like what should you think about? Ghazal, I'll start with you.
I think the first thing that I would say is whatever you're thinking in terms of building, you have to be very passionate about it before you check on the other criterias. If you're not passionate about that industry or that space that you're getting into,
10 साल कैसे build करो एक company? Fair enough. If you're committing to at least 10 years of building this, right? So you got to be passionate.
Yeah, so you got to be passionate. Second, I think you need to find your niche. D2C, most of the D2C companies who've succeeded have been built on a certain niche, which is identifying large category or small category, because the journey of the company is so long, it evolves with time once you get into it. So I don't think we can plan for it. We started Mamaearth as a baby care company.
Correct.
My first pitch deck talks about baby, like not just the baby personal care products, but baby furniture, baby clothes, bottles, everything.
You didn't think you'd be in lipsticks.
Not at all. Not at all. So that was the vision, that we are going to be in the baby space, but we are going to go wide across all categories. And I think 3 months into the business, we realized was the supply chains and the expertise are so different across that we can't build this company. But what we were very clear about and what helped us stood out was identifying that niche which nobody was catering towards. India had a lot of mass baby products, or they had internationally imported products which were not made for Indian skin at a far higher price point. There was nothing in between. When you're very, very targeted on a small segment and you're able to gain your consumer trust on that, then from there you decide how to expand and how to go forward, right? I think, of course, now, given a choice, I would say go behind large category sizes, because it becomes far more easier to scale compared to categories which are smaller, because it's very difficult being a category creator. It's far easier taking share in a particular category, and that's what we have realized over our journey as well.
TAM is king.
Actually,
have your passion, but in a big category, right? Like, Minu, how do you find your first product with PMF in the D2C category, and how in D2C, how do you know that you found something with some sort of product market fit?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, and also on the previous thing that we were discussing, which is on like how.
Yeah, what are the markers that you know?
And does the market matter, right? I actually believe it doesn't matter. I actually believe the size of the market doesn't matter. I actually believe that the size of the problem matters, and if you have a unique right to build for that problem matters, right? And that's how I thought about BlissClub as well. I don't think on day one I thought how big is women's activewear in India, and I will build it only if it's a large TAM. Because honestly, the answer would have been, it's not big enough, I will not build it.
I'm sure VCs told you that.
Yeah, hundreds of people told me that. This
It's too
is so
small.
niche. Like how many women work out in India? How small is the market? It can never be more than a few crores brand, right? So I actually believe that TAM is made. and you discover TAM. If you're smart enough, you keep discovering the next ancillary TAM and you figure out what it is. And I think both of these things.
Tell me, isn't the size of the problem in some way related to the TAM?
I don't think so, because the
How do you
problem,
differentiate between
it may be intense. Like when I say size of the problem, is it intense enough? Like does someone believe, it could be 10 people, but they feel very strongly that this is a problem, and I really like care so much for the fact that someone needs to solve it. This really is a big problem.
So in your case, it was what was, if you can articulate the clear problem, and what was the solution that you found for it?
Yeah. So if you look at women's activewear space, there are probably like less than 1 million women who work out in a gym in India, right? But for me, the unique insight was whoever is building for apparel, and in activewear apparel specifically, were building for the gym. Most women are walking or hacking activity into their lifestyle, and that is the new fitness, right?
So who were the incumbents, if you can?
Well, like I think we're in a category where we have the Nikes, Pumas, Reeboks, Adidas of the world.
So it was gym wear that looked and felt like gym wear.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay, what if I created something that you can work out in, but also just wear generally?
Yeah, how do you marry technical clothes with comfort?
With comfort. Is this something that came from consumers, or like, I'm assuming no one would have articulated it in this specific language, right? Ki meko gym wale kapde pure din pehenna hai. Like who's gonna say that?
No, like I said, it started with that personal problem statement. Right? I go for a tournament, I squeeze out of my sports bra because I can't breathe in it post that 2 hours that you go.
Chaitanya, what was your first product and that found PMF? Actually, you can, if it wasn't the first product, you can also tell me what was the first product, and then how did you iterate to find PMF on that?
Maybe the 3 things that you asked might give you that context. You asked about the markers, TAM and PMF. So the markers for us were very clear. 2 things. Number 1 was, are you able to change something in the value chain that is either going to make the product better, faster or cheaper?
Are you going to change something in the value chain that will make the product better, faster or cheaper?
If you're just going to be a replica depending only on the brand or the ability to build a brand with a lot of capital, that's not sustainable. So you have to do something that's different.
Okay.
That was number.
Better, faster, cheaper.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 2 was exactly like Minu said, do you have a hero product? As a D2C company, you don't have the resources or the mental bandwidth to be able to say, I'll launch 20 products, 30 products, build content for it, market them, educate consumers. You don't have it. So you can build out other products, but as long as you have a laser sharp focus on one hero product that is vastly better than something that's out there in the market, that can be a game changer. That can be the sort of a toehold into the consumer's market. And then people trust you for that, and then they buy other things later on, which you don't have to worry about.
So that one hero product needs to be better, faster, cheaper than something else that's in the market. Okay.
And so you cannot just be a replica saying, I'll get something manufactured by this guy. I'll get some label stick on by this guy. Then I'll put it on my website on Shopify.
So product innovation zaruri hai, matlab.
To some degree.
ठीक है, आधे startup यही बंद हो गए, ठीक है.
And then you said TAM. India, I have an opinion that you have a huge population, all of that is fine. In India, TAM keeps, if you're a fast growing startup, TAM keeps expiring every 18 to 24 months.
TAM keeps expiring every 18 to 24 months, which is if you keep growing, you realize that I'm hitting the ceiling on this, I'm not able to grow.
You are, just like Minu said, you are forced to think outside for growth. Ancillary products, ancillary channels, ancillary services. You can build around it to be able to say that, okay, it was this particular people, I'll be able to get a larger share of wallet by doing this. This particular people I was not serving, but I need to launch a new products for that. So you will keep facing that. So I don't believe that one clear TAM answer at the beginning is going to give you clarity to say, hey, this is VC fundable. Even today, we are 1,000 crore in revenue. Board meetings, potential investors, everybody asks, how are you planning to grow? Because the market is too small.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. We thought when we get 200 crore, we'll bet this question won't come. Even today it comes. And it's a very real question.
It continues to come. I think the intensity of the question continues to increase as you move forward.
It sounds like you have to go 0 to 1 on a new startup within the existing startup, like every 18 to 24 months. But you need that first hero product to be very successful to build trust with consumers.
And to the third part of your question, which was that hero product? For us, it was the orthopedic memory foam mattress, which really vastly changed how people slept, and in a market way. If you did a blind test and somebody moved from one of the unbranded or any other foam mattress or a cotton gadda, they would just wake up and say, wow, I love this. That's all they knew.
What was it priced at?
It was priced back then at about 20,583. Today it is somewhere around, for a king size mattress, today it is somewhere around 11,000 odd. We've value engineered, ensured that efficiencies are
And
there.
what is that price for an unbranded mattress that usually people use?
Unbranded would probably be about 5,000-6,000. A branded traditional company would probably be at about 35,000-40,000 rupees. So we suddenly made a high quality product accessible,
Much cheaper.
and the marker for this was word of
Sorry,
mouth.
I will do the test. How was it better than the other products?
Blind test.
Blind test, okay. Which is no body pain when you sleep, better sleep, etc. etc.
And the marker was reviews,
Okay.
where people said, my arthritic mother visited me and she slept on it and went back to her hometown and said, get me that mattress. Parents saying that my kids were always these exhausted pigeons in the morning. They would not sleep and then they'd be cranky at school. Now they're sleeping well. Or I had this dog from 14 years, cancerous. Last 9 months I gave him this dog. He passed away peacefully. Now I want it for my humans in the house. So these are things that you cannot bloody fake. It's a marker of PMF that is so strong that if you just listen, then you know you've hit it.
Okay, so once you find that one hero product, right, which starts flying off the shelves naturally, it's clear that you need to find that first before you start thinking, okay, what's the next market I go for? Okay, I have some base level consumers who like me, and these are usually the next products are something adjacent. I want to touch upon marketing a little bit, because once you feel like, hey, this product is naturally growing, but I really want to see what the ceiling for this is, and early in the day you don't have that much cash. How do you guys think about marketing? Let's start with you, Ghazal. Before you were flush with cash, how did you decide?
Flushed with cash. Flushed with cash.
Yeah.
I hope it continues to be.
No, I think very early on we realized that not a lot of businesses need a lot of cash. Especially in our industry, beauty and personal care. You could manufacture as small as 10 pieces of per product, handmade batches, and test it out with consumers or take it out and do a PMF. Even as we got, when we got the PMF and we decided to take productions, etc. हम लोग ना इतनी middle class family से आते हैं कि हमसे पैसे दिए ही नहीं जाते बिना बात के, right? And we were just starting into that journey. So, like I said, we were doing a lot of consumer survey, and what we realized was that word of mouth in the category is actually very, very strong. So when a mother uses it and recommends it to another mother from experience, that has the most trust.
That's the holy grail for everyone.
Compared to so marketing के लिए तो पैसे ही नहीं थे ना, जो पैसे थे we were using it to build products, right? And उसके beyond, like middle class background, you always want to have a war chest. So you're always I say it.
You're rationing how much money to spend.
Yes, you're rationing how much money do I spend and how much money do I always have, because this is my runway for the next 6 to 8
ठीक है, तो
months.
series 8 में तो थोड़े पैसे आ जाते.
हमने friends and family raise किया था. We had put in like 30 lakh of our own money, and then we had raised about 60 lakh from friends and family. So that was the war chest that we had for the first 4 months. Even from that money, we used very little. Of course, we used a lot of it to acquire consumers. On marketing, we went by word of mouth. We said the cheapest form of marketing a product is making consumers experience our product. So we sent it out to as many people as we could, and I created this board of moms. I used to say these were all, उस time पे Instagram etc. इतना नहीं था. They used to be bloggers who used to write articles around parenting, right? I made friends with them, coldly reached out to them, had a conversation. These were, because they were also new moms, they were very easily able to understand what I was talking about. And one of the moms said that, you know what, you were a company who's by the parents for the parents, and we stole that line from her, and I'm still very grateful. So that board of moms was my first marketing, so to say, that we now call marketing. Us time pe to we did not know, we were just creating connects. They actually helped us spread the word of mouth. And from there we moved to people who had a certain amount of influence, who had a certain amount of followers, for us to be able to spread our word. And across all of the spectrum, we worked on barter. We said, we will send you our products, you use it, give us our honest feedback. If you like it, please talk about it.
Absolutely no money spent. That was my first lesson in marketing.
Initial days.
This is the first 4-5 months, 6 months of it. And after that, of course, we raised Series A, money started flowing in. That's when we started targeting some of the influential people. We figured that we need, that's how we got Shilpa on board as well, because we realized that a face which is trustworthy to all of this.
This is Shilpa Shetty, by the way. Not just any Shilpa, she's saying casually.
Shilpa Shetty Kundra, yes, of course.
Yeah.
There was also our first hit, like a big hit that we've been able to get her on board, right? And we tested multiple
This was
names.
what year? When did Shilpa come on?
2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah, so December 2016 is when we launched. I think late 2017 is...
Then you guys got Shilpa on board.
Yes, yes.
And did that help dramatically?
Back then, yes.
Yeah.
Because the set of consumers that we were reaching out to had a strong trust in Shilpa because of the life that she was leading. She was also a new mother. She believed in everything natural, organic. That's something that she used to talk about a lot as well. And we had multiple other celebrity names on the list, by the way. But she just shined out so bright. We reached out to her. I still remember she had come for a shoot here in Delhi itself, and not here, sorry, back in Delhi. She said, I would love to come on board as an investor. And I think that did add a lot of credibility to a new brand who was operating in a segment where earning trust was really, really difficult. A few of the things that we did, so for example, bringing an external source of certification of safety on the products that no other brand talked about. We worked with this not-for-profit organization called Made Safe, who tested each and every product to be safe. So that worked in our favor. That helped build a lot of trust. Shilpa helped build a lot of trust because people already knew her for her way of life, and they were able to bring that equity to our brand when they saw that face.
So
that was the... And there also, I mean, it's not like we spent a lot of money because she came on board.
No, we will get to the part where you spent a lot of money in the second half of this conversation. This is early days, and I think Shilpa is a good interval point for this story, right? Minu, for you, early days, how do you market your product as a brand? You guys are community first. Like I have a bunch of friends who told me about BlissClub. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think I can break the first 18 months into two phases. So before any money, which is before seed round, and after seed round. And so before seed round, really, it was very, very organic. And we were a community before we had product. So BlissClub started during the pandemic. I couldn't launch with product during that time because I couldn't make product. I was restricted by...
So how do you build the community without the product?
This was not a community around the product itself. It was a community around the philosophy. Which came before we had a product.
Which was?
The philosophy was that you don't need to go to the gym to feel fit. You just have to move.
Got it.
We were a community.
And during the pandemic.
Yeah,
great time.
women who move. I quit my job November 19. Pandemic hit December in China and then in India in March. So the philosophy was around women who move. It continues to be core to how we operate. And so community started with...
Tangibly, what was this? Like a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group?
It started with an Instagram channel, like an Instagram page.
Okay.
It then evolved to a lot of WhatsApp groups. So on the Instagram page, if you see the first, it's still there, like the first few
Women Who
content
Move,
pieces.
is that what it's called?
Yeah, I mean, it's called My Bliss Club.
Okay, now.
But
Okay,
the
got
theme
it,
was
got it.
Women Who Move.
Got it.
And so we would feature like women who work out. We would feature a lot of educational content that I would make. Shitty content, but like just put things out there.
But that's key, right? When you're starting.
Yeah.
This is interesting because most people tend to wait for the product or some semblance of a product before they start making content. But you decided, okay, I'm just going to go for content.
Yeah, because
before.
I was so convinced about what we're trying to say, right? And BlissClub, why BlissClub? Because like movement is not about looking a certain way. Like fitness is not about looking a certain way. It's about feeling great. It's a feeling of happiness, bliss, right? And somewhere in India that was missing. Like there was a lot of narrative around got to get six-pack abs, got to lose weight. And fitness was only about six-pack abs or losing weight. It wasn't about
just feeling great.
Just feeling great. And so that's what we started talking about, and a lot of women really related to it. So yes, pandemic was also a great time because everyone was, indoors, working out online, seeking, some comfort with each other. So we started with an Instagram page. We evolved to having WhatsApp groups, and in these WhatsApp groups, we would do online fitness sessions. Sometimes I would just go in. We would do like a meditation session together. Nothing. We're on Zoom, and like I'm just meditating. They're meditating. I've got Headspace app on. Someone's like guiding us, but it was amazing the way I got to know like all of those women at that time. Firstly, it gave me a lot of energy because it was a pretty down time for the whole world, right? But like we would meet each other, we would work out together, we would share our stories. So we had close to 10 to 12,000 women in our Instagram page.
Even before the product was it. That's
and
killer.
That is something I'm the most proud of in my journey of BlissClub, because it is so difficult to build an organic Instagram page. It's right now I think it's impossible. Like I think it's evolved in the last 4 years. There's no organic on Instagram anymore. But at that time, I'm so proud of that hustle, that giso work in the first I think 9 months. So we didn't have a product, we just had this community. And so when we launched our first product, we actually sold the first batch like completely organically and to the community.
How did you break it to them that there's a product coming here?
I was making product with them. They knew this was coming. It wasn't a surprise. I would ask questions on, hey, what the problem you have? Like, how do we make the ultimate? Like, this was all before we had money, right? And at that time, we also did this. We sent our product. So we launched product. So before the product, only community. After the product, community, and we sent a lot of our products to influencers. Again, no money. And I remember I'm so grateful for Malvika Sitlani. So she's a beauty influencer, and she just took the product. So again, we're sending you the product. We don't have money. If you like it, like it'd be great if you put a story about it. And she put a story about it. This was, I think, 15 days after we launched. And we sold out like some 150 units in a day because of her. And I was like, what is happening? WhatsApp is buzzing, Instagram is buzzing. And then we realized she had like 400K followers at that time. And she had posted. So I think the first 9 months before we had any money was really this.
It's actually super interesting because most people wanna have a product without a clear mission, and actually started with a very clear mission, and conditions were such that you found an organic community to just be active, and almost perfectly there's an activewear product that came out after that. Like, this is rare, and I think most people who are building in this could learn from this. Chaitanya, for you, early days, what were you doing to?
I think there's a misconception that branding means advertising and content.
Yeah.
Branding is a sum of all interactions that the customer has with your brand, from pre-sales doubts to post-sales usage. If you're doing great content but your customer care is not giving the right information, if you're doing this great content but your packaging is shitty, it doesn't work. So people need to see that consistently. We started in December 2015. The first ad we ran was in September 2017. We didn't have a Google or a Facebook account. And for those 18 months, all we did was ensuring that the customers are liking it. And we created something known as the post-sales delight calls. We were selling a 20,000 rupee product, and some early adopters were buying it. So we were very worried that people might return it. So we started these delight calls where we used to call them and say, this is how you take care of the product. This is how your body is going to change over the next 30, 90 days. If you don't like it, don't worry, we are there. Because what is the first reaction of the consumer? To say that they cheated me. Let me go on social media. And that, for a brand like ours, which is so new, would have been the death knell. So we said we have to engage with them and reduce their anxiety throughout. So we had a process to call at 7th day, 14th day, 21st day. And it is such an experiential product that if there are 2 people in the house, both of them will have a very different experience with the mattress. Somebody will love it in the first 7 days. Somebody will not like it even after 100 days. Somebody's body will get used by 21 days. So to break in the mattress and to find your comfort spot, it takes some time. And that time there's a lot of anxiety. So we did that for 18 months with no marketing budget. When we did get funded 3 years later, by which time we said ads are one thing, but we are not going to rely on them. Because Google tax and Facebook tax is nuts. Someday it's going to kill us. or dependence on marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart is going to kill us someday. So we said the biggest thing to do is to ensure that the customer's touch point and relationship is owned by us.
There was also purpose of it, right? There were so many middlemen. That's almost how you began.
Correct. So we had to educate them. We had to tell them how to use it. We had to tell them how their body is going to change. So once this was there, then we slowly started figuring out that, hey, ads can help us in building awareness. We started with 100 rupees a day, 50 rupees a day, back then in 2017 September.
Good times.
Good times.
When 100 bucks, 1,000 bucks would make a big difference.
It really made a difference. And then we said, we don't have funds. How can we be clever about marketing? So we always thought about what is in the primary focus of the consumers at that point in time. Can we create content around it but leave the brand in the back? Because we felt that if there's always brand in the front saying buy me, it doesn't work. So we, for example, back then there were a lot of news articles saying that Prime Minister Modi doesn't sleep at all. He sleeps for 3 hours, 4 hours. Some nonsense media was writing. So we said we have to capitalize on this. So we said gather about 1,000 messages of unity from across the country, stick it to a mattress, send it to the Prime Minister as a gift. That got us some 150 pieces of media coverage that no money could have bought. And it's a different story that the Blue Dart person who went there got caught by the cops saying that some random person has come with a mattress.
A very good example of moment.
Yeah.
Very good.
But also risky as hell, right?
Yeah, you have nothing to lose as a startup. Then the pandemic hit and everybody was stuck at home and they were forced to do dishes, right? And you go to LinkedIn, you see all these titles, thought leader, visionary, CEO. So we did a simple post saying visionary, thought leader, CEO, aaj ke bartan dho liye. Because that was the first lockdown. That got us so much love that we created a content piece around Bartan Dho Liye by Sumit Vyas, where it's a husband ranting about the fact that there's so much to wash. That got millions of views. Then we did the sleep internship, where we said we'll choose 20, 30
I remember this very
I
clearly.
love the sleep internship project.
Passionate about sleep, give them free products, let them experience it for 100 days, and we give a fitness tracker. We don't use any of their data. Let them publish their experience of how their life got better with better sleep. So we've got 1.1 million applications in 3 seasons.
People who want to sleep.
This
campaign was very cool.
And then we onboarded Kumbhakaran as the chief sleep officer. We created a LinkedIn profile. So it really things that are at top of mind, which doesn't cost money, but the strength of the idea is very strong. I think, and cricket, when the World Cup was happening in Ahmedabad finals, the rooms were going for 1,80,000 a night and so forth. We made a simple post saying, if you are in Ahmedabad, stuck without a room, we are opening up our Ahmedabad store for anybody who wants. We'll give you clean beds, sheets, bathroom, and next day breakfast. You please come.
This is now, though. This is now.
Yes.
Ghazal, I want to ask you, as part 2 of the question, right? I remember the pandemic period, okay? Every YouTuber I knew, me included, had an inquiry from an agency asking them to see if they'd want to do something with Mamaearth, which I did. I did a vlog for you guys. I want to know your experience with influencers, YouTubers. What was it that made you double down on that strategy? What are some things that founders can learn from it? And what are some tips and tricks to work with influencers? All 3 questions.
Yeah.
What was it that made you go for it? And what did you realize worked? And how did you double
So
down?
I think the insight that I had on baby products, which was parents trust other parents, as we got into larger categories, it moved
Correct.
to millennials trust other millennials more than they trust brands. I will always communicate I'm good because I'm a brand. But when your fellow friend or the person that you look up to talks about a certain product that they've liked, you're prone to trust them more. That was the core insight. And of course, when you have limited money, that economy was also like the influencer economy was also just starting. I think that was exactly the time when that industry also boomed, right?
And the pandemic time was great. Yeah.
And during pandemic, when everybody else thought times are uncertain, we need to reserve cash, etc., because we had a war chest. We said because everybody else is not doing anything, people are consuming a lot more content because now they have time. People are sitting at home
they have nothing to do, and hence the influencers can actually help us build the right kind of content. It's something which is engaging as well. We went very aggressive. We said we are going to work with as many people as possible. One, our awareness around the brand increases because we are reaching out to the right kind of people through influencers. Second, because the content consumption is so high and there are limited options available, we got a lot of traction. So I think these were the two reasons which really helped us during pandemic.
It worked. Like
It worked,
awareness,
right?
You could see clear metrics of awareness.
Yeah, and everybody else was shant, right? So you get that edge. Like the saying goes that on a summer day, on a sunny day, you might be able to just overcome one car, but on a rainy day, you can actually overcome 5. And we went by that philosophy that we are going to go aggressive during this time, keeping those 2 to 3 metrics that we were seeing: more consumption of content, more time at hand, and our capability to provide products to the consumers. A lot of business had shut back then, but we were able to get through.
Still ship.
Yes, to get through that. We listed ourselves as essentials. We said that these are shampoo conditioner.
This was when you were doubling
We got
down.
that license to operate 3 days into pandemic, and we got the license to operate our warehouse.
This was the onion shampoo. This was the big product that every YouTuber was doing. Can you any learnings between Instagram influencers, YouTube influencers? What worked better for you?
So we started with YouTube influencers because we could clearly see that people have made YouTube influencers a part of their life, right? They used to wait for the video to come out and watch the entire thing, even if the influencer was posting at 11 in the night. They used to be up, wait for the content to come out. And general curiosity around what's happening in other person's life is like an Indian trait, right? Vlogs were bringing that out to life. So they had become like the replacement to the traditional TV that was happening.
The meme was कि अगर कोई vlogger bathroom की तरफ जा रहा है, सोचो Mamaearth आ गया. That was the meme I remember. Have you dabbled in paid marketing with influencers?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. What are some learnings and what are some things that founders should definitely be careful of when they're working with
I think the
influencers?
first thing is, do you have a right to work with influencers as a category?
Yeah. When do you start working with influencers?
So we've had 2 phases of working with influencers, right? The first phase is we can work with an influencer. Hamara auqat hai only if she moves product for us, because we don't have the money to invest in brand. Like we didn't have brand marketing, like separate brand marketing spends. Everything was perf marketing. Everything we spend needs to get us money back.
Got it.
So we used to only work with influencers. We only worked with stories. Stories have a direct swipe up link. There's a coupon code attached to it. So we know that this influencer got us this much sales.
Got it.
So that was phase 1, where it wasn't brand, it was perf marketing.
So stories move product.
Yeah.
Grid posts build brand.
Yeah.
Is that a fair way to?
I think both build brand. I just feel like when you're a small startup, and when you don't have marketing, you can't do unmeasurable marketing. Everything has to be measured. Everything has to give sales into your thing. Otherwise you can't eat food the other day. But everything has to be ROI specific. I think the second phase of ours, where we realized that while this is one part of it, it's not the only part of it, because beyond a certain scale, beyond a certain spend on Instagram for just digital marketing ads, you do need to keep building top of funnel. You do need to keep telling people, hey, we exist. Hey, this is our brand. Hey, these are products. And maybe then you start spending a little bit towards top of funnel building, which is brand marketing to some extent. And so the second phase has been working with influencers, both from an ROI specific, which is measurable ROI specific way, versus also saying that, hey, we will invest this much money with influencers every month because it helps us be top of mind with our consumers, who for us, everyone's on Instagram. We are women only, right? So
I wanted to ask you, Chaitanya, you said that you began with, very little on Google and Facebook. And I'm assuming eventually that scaled up. It's actually for all 3 of you. What are some things that you've seen that helps you reduce CAC?
Firstly, the product quality. No amount of marketing can couch a shitty product. The second one is no amount of marketing can beat word of mouth. If consumers are still talking negative behind your back, no amount of marketing can overcome that. Having said that, if you take a step back from the overall marketing experience itself, there's bottom of the funnel where people are already researching specifically for their category.
Got it.
Then there's middle of the
That's
funnel.
probably lowest CAC, right? Because they're
Lowest CAC.
already looking.
Correct. Middle of the funnel is where they're thinking that I need to buy something like this over the next 2-3 months. Let me figure out, let me do my research. There's no hurry today. And top of the funnel is they're not even thinking about the category today.
And you're running different creatives for these 3 parts of the funnel?
You named it. So performance marketing predominantly targets the bottom of the funnel, where you say, you're looking for this, I have this, please come.
Got it. Okay.
You're literally just telling them that what you're looking for, I have. There's no need for brand building or anything, because once they come onto the website or the app, the rest of the education happens there.
And both Google and Facebook do a decent job at targeting
varies.
bottom of the funnel.
It varies by category. For example, any product category which has a visual aesthetic element, Meta ecosystem works very well. A smaller ticket size, Meta works very well. Bed sheets, pillows, cushions, personal and beauty care.
You mean like performance on stories and
Yes.
probably timeline?
It works very well because there's a photo element, it looks beautiful, it's aesthetic, it works very well. Smaller ticket size works well. Otherwise, Google works better, but you need to have a mix of both.
Google is more for search. Search is also a bottom of the funnel activity,
Correct.
right?
There again, there are 2 types of search: high intent search, low intent search. If you say buy hardwood bed frame online, high intent.
Correct.
What is Shisham wood? Low intent. So you need to target and educate them very differently. Then you have middle of the funnel where people need to be educated. They're saying, I'm out there in the market, but I don't know which brands exist, what their strengths are, what their features are. Influencer marketing comes right in the middle of that. Because here, you're not the brand saying that, trust me, believe me, I have this certification. All of that is there. But if the brand says, they won't believe it. So can you get influencers to say that genuinely I used it and I liked it because of these reasons? And like Mamaearth has done, BlissClub has done, for them it's very different messaging. For us, the thought process was Instagram lasts very short time. It goes away within 24 hours. YouTube lasts slightly longer. Number 2, in Instagram, you can still buy followers by advertising. In YouTube, you have to earn it the hard way. Number 3, YouTube creators, we felt when we looked at the engagement rates that they've built their community with a lot more pain, lot more effort.
Thank you.
They actually respond to comments, they engage with them there. It's much more of intimate conversations rather than transactional like in Instagram.
Instagram is more fleeting because it's an everyday sort of a thing.
And then there is top of the funnel where you do true brand marketing, where you just say that you as a brand exist in this category, so please come and check me out.
By the way, do you guys see a big difference when you run performance using an influencer or a popular face?
Taking an influencer content, putting money on it, and creating awareness using that rather than a brand created film.
What is
And
BCA?
that works
You said
really
BCA?
well. I said BCA, I don't know the full form, but that's what
Acha,
BCA meant.
okay.
Not on top of my mind, but
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
BCA is basically
Got it.
that's
Take
it,
it influencers.
influencer content and then you're promoting
And then you promote it.
Yeah, creating awareness through that content.
Have you guys also done this?
All these 3 levels are not discrete. So you take an influencer content, and if you've partnered with that influencer to allow using that,
Correct.
you can still do the performance.
Correct.
Similarly, a performance creative might work very well in the middle of the funnel, where you had just said how to make a bed like a hotel bed. But they see that for educational and entertainment purposes, but they also want to see which is that bed sheet and then come down here. So they keep moving across the funnel, top, middle, and bottom. And so we do that and we see really good traction. The reason is, ironically, the production quality of middle and bottom of the funnel has become so good that it seems artificial. So when you have an influencer content or a mobile phone shot content, which actually seems like lower production quality, but it enhances the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
So it started working better on performance, saying, "Arey, it doesn't look like a studio made, edited, nice supers, nice end slate. Maybe it is true. So maybe let me go check it out." So that also is a trend that we are seeing.
Sorry, Minu, before we jumped in, you were talking about how to reduce CAC. What have been your learnings? Especially, from early days to now when you start spending.
I think a lot of things that Chaitanya covered, but I think one step before that is something that has been like a learning through the journey, which is that at the end of the day, so CAC is cost of acquiring a new user first. But the pressure on CAC increases if your repeat users aren't strong enough, right? So the first thing before you even think about CAC is how does your P&L sit with new and repeat? Which is that your repeat users, every person you acquire can't be a leaky funnel. You can't let them go away. Making sure that your retention of these folks keep increasing and is strong enough is actually half the battle won for CAC, is the way I look at it, which is that if you can acquire a user and make sure that they stick on to your product and repeat with you, means that you can now spend at least that much or more on acquiring the next user. So that's the first thing to balance out. That think about new users and repeat users separately. Make sure that your repeat user funnel is strong enough so that there isn't additional pressure on CAC. Because what otherwise happens is if you keep acquiring users and they keep dropping off, you then have more pressure that, hey, CAC has to reduce by 20% next month, 30% next month, so that your P&L sits. But if you're able to get because repeat users are much more cheaper to acquire, or they just repeat with you organically.
No, retention is the holy grail. But like in Chaitanya's case, when you were just selling mattresses, repeating users is probably a bad thing, right? Which is, hey, this person's coming back to buy, but this repeat in D2C, unlike a tech platform. In a tech platform, okay, reopening the app is retention. In D2C, repeat users is not a phenomenon until you have multiple SKUs, I'm assuming.
But for us, it was surprising. Even we thought that there's no repeat in our business. But what was surprising was most homes have 2 bedrooms, and both the bedrooms had unbranded or cotton gaddas. So if they like it, a risk-averse consumer would buy it first for the guest bedroom. If they like it, then the master bedroom. A tech-savvy consumer who's confident of the 100-day trial would buy it for the master bedroom and then replace it for the guest bedroom. So then we got into bed sheets, then we got into furniture. So that is the funnel that ends up happening for us, because for us, they don't come back for a mattress for the next 5-6 years.
For you, it was multiple ultimate leggings?
Yeah, it was exactly what I was saying. Like, we only had one product. We had only one product in one color. Our most bought bundle is 2 black leggings. And it's in the second order. So it is that, I think if people love the product, and that's why product is the core of everything. If you love the product, then your repeat is sorted, and which means that it puts less pressure on you. And on new users on CAC, I think very similar to what I think is very standard. You have to, in initial days, just bottom of funnel, keep trying to educate, influencers work for middle of funnel. Keep finding that balance. And I think finding the balance is the key thing. I think that's been one of our learnings through the last 3 years also, which is that you either skew too much towards perf, because perf has very direct ROI. You can see you can see what it is and what it means in the here and now, which is today or tomorrow. Versus investing in something like influencer or middle of funnel is slightly more longer term. And when you're only a 1-year-old company or a 6-month-year-old company, you're not thinking 12 months mein kya hoga. You're thinking 12 days mein kya hoga, and you get into a negative spiral where you're like, no, let's hit more perf. And I think we went through that journey. And then realize that more perf is not going to help. You have to help educate her about why your products are better, why this fabric is better, why is the fit the way it is, and you have to maintain that balance. And I think every startup, I don't know if you guys relate to it, go through that journey where you go down this perf and brand, perf and influencer, and it's kind of been that balance.
Yeah, I want to talk about performance marketing, because what are some insights that that people can get, which is, if you can put some numbers to it, which is, how much did you start off with performance marketing? When do you ramp up performance marketing? What is a bad idea, like some mistakes you made with performance marketing?
I think it's 2 phases in performance marketing. First phase is getting your targeting right, getting your spends right, being able to know that what is the right targeting or the right audience to reach out to. But that's phase 1. And then you grow in performance marketing because you figure that out and you unlock the first phase. But I think that ends somewhere, and then you go into beyond this. It's about figuring out what kind of content works for you in performance marketing. And I feel there's no one playbook for that. It honestly changes every quarter. Like Chaitanya said earlier, we used to have amazing shoots done. We put it up, it does well. Then suddenly shoot wala content is not working. All organic stuff, things where we've spent nothing, where we've literally made it an office, works the best. Then it became that influencer content works the best. So you have to keep reinventing yourself, and there was no like one playbook in content. And then I think as the brand grows, we'll have to go back to figuring out hence what's the targeting. But I think it's this figuring out the right audience to reach out to and like who to tell to and what to say. And then it's a cycle where you have to keep discovering yourself. But I feel the creative part of performance marketing, I feel is very underrated. I don't think people put enough, or we even put enough thought to it, or put enough like feedback loops for ourselves to understand what kind of creatives work. Like, because it honestly is quite random. Someday an algorithm picks up something, someday it's something else. But if you look at it with the right lens, there is a pattern that forms. So we have found that pattern. The first pattern was like high quality lifestyle images work. Then
high quality lifestyle images, what does that mean?
just like beautifully shot images of our product.
And these are on stories?
These are on like video.
Got it, okay.
And you boost the video in perf.
Got it, okay.
Then organic things
high, well shot lifestyle videos. That's one. Okay.
Yeah.
What are the other patterns?
The second one was organic stuff, like Chaitanya was saying, like super organic, like literally iPhone, someone doing something in the office. It's even shaking a little bit. It's not perfectly held iPhone. It looks so organic that you're like someone's just shot it in their backyard, and that started picking up. So they started like places where we would spend 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs for a shoot versus where we would spend nothing. The ones where we would not spend anything is what actually picks up.
Because it almost fakes authenticity.
I agree. I think
It doesn't fit. It's real content.
No,
नहीं पर ये जानबूझ के कर रही है वो जानबूझ के कर रही है तो fake ही है.
scrolling, like imagine as a consumer, I'm scrolling, I see a well shot ad, I'm like, ये ad है, like next.
Correct.
Versus then suddenly just feel like, oh, someone's doing something,
Yeah.
like, oh, अच्छा ये ad था, but like you got
Like
tricked
Big
for the
Boss
first
footage,
10
right?
seconds on it. And I think the third learning has been like
लोग के बाथरूम में
influencer
कैमरा
content.
छुपाना शुरू कर दो. छुप के वीडियो ले रहे हो आप लोग अटेंशन.
बहुत पिटाई होगी.
I hope I don't see that on my feed.
Got it. So that's the second one, which is lower production videos tends to signal authenticity.
Yeah. And I think the third, learning has been what we've already discussed, but like other people talking about your brand, like
Got it.
testimonials, reviews, customers talking about it, influencers talking about it. When the brand's not saying ourselves that, hey, we're good, but someone else talking about it, face to camera, I think that.
Anything between performance on stories and grid that you've seen a difference? Like there's two types of performance on Instagram, right? Like on
So
stories and
when you
grid.
run performance marketing ads on Instagram or anywhere, it's either statics or videos. That's how it is. I think for us, videos have always worked better. I think it also depends category-wise, but since we're apparel, lifestyle, people want to see the product, see how it moves, what it does for you. For us, videos are almost like 80% of the perf content we create, 20% is static.
Stories are very fleeting, so we don't ever.
No, stories पे ad जब चलता है आप stories cycle through कर रहे होते हो suddenly ad आता है, right? This is usually अगर मैंने गलती से कोई link दबा दिया तो उस brand का story
so
आता
they're
है.
very fleeting.
Correct. Stories are fleeting. And when you say video, you mean performance on your grid, right? On your timeline that shows up. You were saying something, sir.
No, I was just saying just a small addition to what both Ghazal as well as Minu have outlined. The performance marketing itself has changed in these 8 years since when we started to now.
Correct.
There used to be a lot more control with the marketer back then, where you could tweak, allocate budgets by city, budgets by category, budgets by algorithm type, search type. More and more, both Google and Meta have moved away the control from the marketer to what they call the machine learning algorithm. So which sometimes you doubt, is it something that's going to give you the right results or is it trying to optimize for something?
It's a black box. You don't know.
It's a black box. So you have to work harder now to retain control and do your own experiments because in performance marketing, experiments can't stop.
मेरे को और थोड़ा सीक्रेट जानना है. 100 रुपए अगर मेरा टोटल मार्केटिंग बजट है उसमें पर्फ पे कितना जा रहा है, इन्फ्लुएंसर पे कितना जा रहा है और बाकी चैनल्स पे कितना जा रहा है? Stages भी बताओ. Like broad stages.
When you're in the first trying to figure out product market fit, I would say zero on anything. Just list on a marketplace because that's the easiest way to test out any D2C product. You don't even need a website.
Word of mouth में जितना
Word of
चल रहा है
mouth and
वो
reviews.
कोशिश करो.
But then beyond that, I would say the first till you get to your product market fit, probably 100% on performance.
100% performance, okay.
And then you get to say 80-90% performance, 10-15% influencer. And then that steadily, influencer I don't think is justified at some point to say that I'll make it 50-50. At some point you will stop it because like Minu said, it is not measurable. You can measure some proxies and you should measure those proxies. What are the page views? What are the visits? How many coupon codes usaged? What is the bit.ly link?
But how do you measure trust built in
Correct.
consumers because seen with influencers?
Much larger brands can do brand health track, but not for a smaller brand. And then over a period of time, I think a mature brand should probably look at, say, 50% brand, 10% influencer, and 40% performance. The reliance on performance should go down because that means you are not targeting only people who are searching for the category or the brand. Now people are actually searching for Wakefit mattress and then coming to your website, or Wakefit sofa and coming to your website. So then your reliance has gone down. So that would probably be the journey according to my opinion.
Is that fair, Ghazal?
Absolutely. I think the way I divide it in any phase and the spends ka percentage can change is awareness, consideration, conversion, right? Performance marketing comes as a conversion tool, right? While it is also generating awareness, because if you're reaching out to 60,000 consumers, 6,000 out of them are getting converted, you're still
Creating awareness with the
creating
remaining
awareness
54.
with far more people. Second is consideration, where I feel that between consideration and conversion, influencers work really well, right? They, especially on YouTube, where the content is everlasting. Even if I worked with an influencer 3 years back,
Correct,
because
views
they
to
have
aa rahe.
the views continues to come, conversion continues to happen because that video is still relevant and the optimization, the search optimization engine keeps putting it out when consumers are searching. So very high content, intent consumers get to see that.
One insight here is that on every YouTuber's channel, if you go on the YouTube channel and you click on most popular videos, you'll see the top 10, with top 10, top 50 videos that they've made. Usually it is part of some sort of a series. Like on my channel, it is Pakistani Dar Savage or one of those, and you as a brand want to be part of that because that will continue getting views as long as this YouTuber is relevant. Sorry, go on.
Good insight.
Yeah.
Want to take that. And then there's awareness, right? And awareness spends again change at different stages of building the business.
Starting with 100% perf, then 70-30 perf and influencers, to now we're around 10% of that is on brand as well. But I think as you scale a brand, then that kind of has to shift where brand becomes the largest chunk of it. And I think it's a journey. I mean, that's, I think, really important. You have to keep experimenting with, like, you can't start brand too early either. Like, if you start spending on, like, influencers from day one, it's probably not going to be.
And by the way, there's another curve towards it, which we are experiencing now, right? Once, for example, Mamaearth is at a stage where enough awareness has been built. There also comes a time when the spends start going in the reverse direction as well. At least I've not experienced that journey fully, but the spends start to decrease because now there is only the conversion or the consideration phase which needs to be focused more on because that job has already been done. And I think what a lot of people, because we are just talking D2C, right? D2C shouldn't be looked as a strategy. It's a channel. I think a lot of startups confuse D2C to be a strategy and try and build just pure D2C brands, which is where the CAC starts hurting you at some stage in life.
Correct.
It needs to be looked at from a consumer lens. It needs to be looked at from where your brand is at that stage and what is the next natural progression.
This is interesting. I was going to naturally get to this, which is D2C is the myth, or is it, how long are you really D2C? And at what phase does that change? When you're starting off, how much are you really selling on your own website and how much is e-commerce? And how much of that matters? Can you take us through, Chaitanya, I'll start with you. Can you take us through phase by phase? Early on in your journey, how much are you really D2C? How much are you available on other e-commerce platforms? And why should either why should you or why should you not be as strong to be D2C?
D2C is not a channel for me. It's a way of life. Meaning, whether I sell on Amazon and Marketplace or Flipkart or a dealer or my own store or my website, I need to own the consumer's relationship. If I'm just using Amazon as a platform to say that, boss, just come and buy, I want your revenue, I don't want your data, I don't even want to know who you are, then that's not D2C for me. So I need to know that there is a person called Tanmay of a particular age, of a particular city, of a particular interest, because that's when I will be able to build more products for such people.
And the e-commerce platforms don't give you this kind of, they don't give you this much detail.
If you use them for fulfillment, they don't give you this. Because their logic is, if you are not contacting the customer for delivery, why do you need that information? So if you are a D2C brand who wants to own true D2C, then in that case, you need to build your own supply chain. You have to do the hard work of saying that I will build my own supply chain. I will deal with the customer escalations. I will deal with the customer queries on where is my product. But I will put this effort because ultimately I know who that consumer is, what her anxieties are, what her doubts are. So D2C is that for me. But the catch also is, as a D2C brand expands into multiple categories, multiple channels, attribution becomes hugely complex. So customers search on marketplaces, go to your store. They go to 5 stores, including your store, then go to your website, then go to marketplace and buy there because they found a bank offer. So if you start looking at each of these channels as a separate entity and then say that I will chase my local maxima for each of them. I will allocate a budget for marketplaces and expect a return. I will allocate a budget for website, expect a return. I'll do the same for my stores, dealers, franchises, whatever. You will always be left chasing your own tail because each of the departments is chasing their own local maximum.
Correct.
So company-wise, nobody's thinking. And because attribution is so complex, you don't know where the consumer is browsing. And in fact, in the same household, it's one person on the phone, one person on the laptop, one person on another iOS, and you can't know that it's the same family. So how do you ensure that you're looking at this is again D2C. So D2C is not just a channel, it's owning the relationship. And secondly, to ensure that attribution is looked at more globally and more holistically than just saying I put in this money and I got this revenue.
When did you guys go offline?
Today we are 8.5 years old, 1,000 crores in revenue. We went offline when we were 6 years old, 640 crore, which means we were literally taken offline kicking and screaming. We didn't want to go offline. Being online gives you leverage to grow exponentially, drive traffic exponentially, try a lot of innovative things, train people centrally. So we had no interest in going offline, but very clearly the market showed that there is a whole segment of consumers who are only going to buy then and there in the offline.
You felt like you were hitting a ceiling online?
It wasn't a ceiling as much as not growing to the speed at which we wanted. Still growth was still coming. But we said if you have to solve for it, we have to start solving today, not 3 years later when we do hit the ceiling. So today, for example, average order value is double of online.
Okay.
Conversion rate is about 7 times higher than online.
And you didn't predict any of this when you were starting off?
Nothing. So what we did was we launched only 10 stores and we learned. We stopped after 10 stores and then we learned a lot for 3-4 months, interviewed consumers, observed behavior, put up a lot of tracking mechanisms as to how they behave, what they buy and so forth. Today we have 50 stores, but that learning has been very, very steep. Because 18 months ago, we had no retail muscle in the company. We had no clue how to run that business. Today we have 50 stores, so everything has been running through this learning. But very, very clearly, in our category where it's home.
Do you wish you did this earlier in your journey?
No.
No?
No. Starting offline shittily is worse than starting offline.
Totally
the right
agree
way.
to that.
Starting offline shittily is worse than not starting at all.
Yeah.
You concur?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for most of the D2C brands, at least I can say it for all of us, the evolution is offline only works because of the awareness that you've created online, which helps you get a brand pull. If you don't have that awareness built through these online channels, offline mein aap chale bhi jaoge. For example, for a category like me, right, you will go into modern trade, general trade, you'll open your stores, etc. But if the awareness around the brand doesn't exist, nobody's going to buy you. And that's like the worst thing that you can do, because offline, you end up stocking your inventory, right? That's how you start. But if the consumer pull is not there, it becomes dead inventory.
And it's not easy to fail on offline, especially for young brands, right? When your capital strapped, you're spending like a lot of money, like tens of lakhs on launching a store. You can't afford for it to not work.
Fail.
It's just online it's still difficult. It's still different, right? I mean, you fail, you move on, you figure out another, you pivot. But there's no fast pivoting in offline. It's a very different pace. And I think that's a big learning for us, that you got to pace out offline. You can't go the same way you did online. And I think the cost of failure is very, very high offline.
Minu, you are a solo founder, whereas Chaitanya has Ankit, and this is a family business.
I have my husband. We were co-founders. Hasn't trickled down to our kids. So,
What role? Is there a clear divide in? Hey, this is what Varun handles. This is what Ghazal handles.
Absolutely. I think very early on we realized that if both of us are going to do the business together, and we will have different.
So what parts are you?
So I take care of everything: product innovation, new brand creation, community, consumer insighting, etc. And Varun takes care of the business part of things. So a very clear distinction between what we do. We of course have now experts handling each of the functions like marketing, etc., etc. So we rely a lot on our team because we want to do a lot.
But all the fun stuff you took up. Great. And between you and Ankit?
Ankit is brilliant with understanding consumers, creating products, identifying white spaces, what specs, what price points, where will it work. He's brilliant with it. So the whole supply side is his brainchild. I spend a lot of my time on marketing, growth, investor relations, fundraising. So,
Do you enjoy it? The last two that you said.
What is enjoyment? So when you guys started off, I want to know about hiring, right? When you're just starting off, what are like the top 3 absolutely key hires you need to make when you're starting a product or your own brand? Minu, I'll start with you because you were all alone. You needed your founding team.
yeah.
So what were the first 3-5 hires that you absolutely have to make?
I think for me, and I guess I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but for me, a large part of like the core part of what we were building was product. And I'm not from a design background myself.
Correct.
And I wanted help there desperately. I was very blinded on that side. So the first hire I had was someone on the product side. Both finance, since I have a finance and marketing background, were things I was comfortable with. And hence then the second and third hire was on the marketing side of things, because that's just where a lot of, like, if you have product sorted, then that's the next thing to do. So yeah, first was product, then was someone in growth, and then someone in brand. And brand marketing then becomes like brand and creative initially. There's nothing brand marketing, but just a creative lead. So these are the first 3 hires.
in a startup, if somebody comes and says, I want to do strategy, I think you have to run far away from that person.
Tips for everyone making your next level profile, by the way.
Because it very, very quickly boils down into 4 or 5 roles: sales and marketing, product, technology, finance, and operations.
Correct.
Somebody-
Where is strategy in this? Yeah.
Somebody has to pick up one and be very deeply into it. That is number 1. Number 2, also just like marketing in stages of the company, there's hiring in the stages of the company. When we were really, really early stage, it was just Ankit and me and a whole bunch of junior folks. And literally every single person in the company was like a spare tire. Something broke in production, everybody's working there. Something broke in marketing, everybody's working there. Something broke in the website, everybody's working there. So it's literally like a spare tire where people are generalists. And these are just young, hungry graduates who just want to earn a living, want to have a lot of exposure. And they are not saying that this is my job description, this is not my job description, so I won't do it. No, they're just hungry. They want to learn. They want to be excited about coming to work every day. That's the first phase. Second phase that really, really worked for us accidentally was to get a whole bunch of failed entrepreneurs. What had happened was, at some point, our CFO, CTO, VP of data, VP of retail, they were all great. They had great pedigree, great education, had worked in big companies, tried something, failed at it. So they were really hungry for a second chance. So for them to take up that function where they were experts at, but to get a chance where there is direction, where they had failed in a previous company, that really worked. But then the same team sort of disbanded when it came to Series B, C, because they were so entrepreneurial that they went back to starting up.
Correct.
Out of all those 3-4, they've all become entrepreneurs again. But then they were the perfect team to get us from Series A to Series B, C. Today, we have deep functional experts, people in finance with 25 years experience, people in marketing with 18 years experience, so on and so forth, where they're just deep experts. And you have to make room for them to bring in their point of view. You take a little bit of a step back and say, these are the guardrails, this is what is sacrosanct. but then go chase your own happiness.
Got it.
So that's very
So
different.
0 to 1, a lot of just hungry generalists. 1 to 10 is entrepreneurs who will help you go 1 to 10. And then 10 to 100 is, experienced folks who will come in and sort of take over. I want to ask you, green flags, especially in the initial days, because a lot of folks might want to work at startups and go from 0 to 1. Green flags in the early days.
I think I relate to Chaitanya when he talked about the 0 to 1 and 10 to 100 journey, not as much from the 1 to 10 because it was different for us. But in that 0 to 1 journey, I think you're looking at hustlers, you're looking at young and hungry folks who want to make a difference, who don't have any experience, but are driven enough to ensure they can pick up any problem and they will figure out solutions. Because like you said, you're a smaller team who's doing everything, right? 1 to 10 ka journey mein, I feel that you need specialists. For example, performance marketing specialist, somebody who has had at least a couple of years of experience in that, who's more intelligent than you in that special field to be able to bring in those complementary skills, and then you can learn together. In the 10 to 100th journey, again, like Chaitanya said, experienced folks who can work with systems and processes, because that becomes really important.
But how do you keep the startup spirit when you have, folks who've been...
So then...
That's the trick, right?
Yeah, but when you bring in these, you don't let any of these go at any stage, right? As you're growing, it's not like you're letting go the hustlers. It's just that you're bringing in more experienced people who are now managing the hustlers instead of you managing them directly. So that hustle, that hunger, that continuous innovation still stays. But there are a few calmer folks who are saying that systems and processes are important. This is how you scale the business. These are the guardrails, like you said. And yes, while we do all of that crazy stuff and figure everything out, let's also look at
अब
this.
बहुत shareholder है, relax करो तुम, ज़्यादा hustle भी नहीं कर सकते. For everyone who's building in D2C and is looking to raise funds, some quick tips on what are some mistakes you guys made initially when you guys were raising. What are some stuff that works and that makes VCs throw money at you? Some do's and don'ts when you're raising initially.
I think throwing money only happens during certain cycles,
Which is not right now.
Which is not right now.
Not right now.
Itself.
But if you leave that aside, internal readiness-wise, 3 or 4 things that have worked for us is number 1, having tremendous clarity on what you are going to do and what you're not going to do. Because there's going to be a ton of times where you're going to not listen to the investors. And you better not listen to them when you're running the company. Even the most well-wishers, even the most interested investor will only be operating from a sliver of context.
Correct.
So they might say the right things with the good intentions, but maybe it's not right for the company. So can you be very clear right from the pitch stage and not say things that will get you funding, but then that's not your true purpose, true reason for existence? That is always going to be a big problem. Second thing is, as much as they interview you, I think you should interview them. It's almost like a marriage. Once they're on the cap table, it's...
Even initially?
Even initially. Because you go through the rigor, right? You go and pitch to an analyst. That analyst will pass you on to an associate. The associate will pass you on to a partner. You get to see the culture of the company. So as much as they are interviewing you, you should really find out, because if you get the right investor, it's really helpful. If you get the wrong investor, you'll waste a...
Yeah, it's like your passive co-founder that you're...
Tremendous amount of time you'll waste dealing with them. And the third thing is, be mentally prepared to hear 1,000 no's. Till today, we've met about 180, 190 investors. First investor was Sequoia, which was the 43rd investor, after 3 years of trying. So if you have to be a little shameless and continue doing it if you want to raise funding.
I'm assuming after you hear 30 no's, it stops hurting after a point.
Does it? It never stops hurting. There's just I think our ability to take it increases.
You know what used to help?
Tolerance increases.
You hear a no from those meetings and come back to office. The rest of your team has no clue.
Yeah.
They'll just come to you like BAU doubt, BAU operation, BAU some problem. Things suddenly feel normal.
Yes.
It really does. They have no clue what has gone through in that meeting where you're coming back from.
Sorry, what is BAU?
Business as usual.
Business as usual. Oh, okay. Okay. Minu?
I think don't is the first thing that I have, which is you get a lot of advice, I think, when you're going to pitch or when you're going through this journey, right? You have friends, you have other folks, I think don't have a playbook of this is how a deck should look, this is how I should pitch, these are the things, like TAM has to be this big, this has to be this big. Because I feel like investors have been in the industry for so long, like they can call bullshit so easily. And what they look for and what shows through is just, are you clear about what you're building? And do you feel passionate about it? And I think in the first phase, that's the only thing that matters. I don't think capability, that all of that is like, it's probably things that you've done before you decided to start up. But are you passionate about it, and do you have clarity on what you're building? So don't go and have all of these fancy slides. You can get like hundreds of pitch decks off the internet and replicate it. And I think like that bullshit conversation and that breakage of trust in the first like meeting, I think is one of the things that because then you kind of don't have that relationship going forward. You are with them. They are part of your journey for the long run. So I think that's one for me, like one of the biggest things in the don'ts. I think in the do's, like find the right partners. For me specifically, I'm a single founder. I've been really lucky with the folks I have on my cap table. They really are thought partners to a very large extent. And it's been a great journey. So I do.
How often are you talking to your investors?
Every month. Officially and officially because we have a board meeting every month, and then once every quarter, which is in person. But we also have catch-ups once in a month as well. And I have found it really, really, really good. And as a single founder, like it's also not about getting advice, but having someone you can just speak to. Because when you speak, you get clarity yourself. And I unfortunately may not have like that equal co-founder within BlissClub to have that chat at any point in time. But I feel they are like in some way play that role for me.
Very interesting. Should I talk about the private side or the public side?
Let's start with private. Go back in the day.
I know. I resonate with what both of them said, right? I think the most important, be it the public or the private side of things, is one, having clarity on what is it that you're going to do and being able to articulate it really well. Articulation could happen through a deck, through a conversation, but truly passing on that feeling which you have to build the company and share it with the investor that you're pitching to is of utmost importance. And that only happens when you're authentic, when you're real, and when you're vulnerable. Also talking about what is it that scares you the most and what is it that you're unsure of gets you that investors' trust, that they're open to listening, they are open to taking feedback. And like Minu said, right, we looked at our board or our investors. So starting up is a very lonely journey to begin with, right? Usually, जो भी आप काम कर रहे होते हो, you have somebody on top that you bounce off the idea with and who gives a validation कि yeah, this is good, go forward, this is bad, don't do this. Starting up is, you don't have that, right? And we were seeking that, and we found that in our investors and in our board. Till today, we do that, right? Anything that's on top of our mind.
Who was the first investor that trusted you? First, you did family and friends round.
So within the family and friends round, we got Kawaljeet from Fireside to invest in personal capacity. In true verbatim that he said, business to मुझे ज़्यादा अभी नहीं समझ में आ रहा, but तुम लोग अच्छे हो, clarity है, तो कुछ ना कुछ तो बना लोगे. And he put in money. And I think that was a beautiful start because all of our rounds post that have been inbound. On the private side of things, we didn't have to really go pitch or look for investors. We always had a war chest, so it was a slightly more comfortable journey. And I think that happened because we were talking to our investors so much and being open and being vulnerable and involving them. Yeah. I mean,
that
why not, right? That really worked. I think other than that, what worked for us, I would say, is being okay accepting mistakes. As in when we found it, rather than contemplating and saying that because we said this or we pitched this, we have to prove this. And I think that's where a lot of businesses go wrong. Being okay accepting your mistake, pivoting when it's required and saying, you know what, we tried this, did not work, we are moving on to this. A lot of people, including investors, might not have trust in you when you do that.
That's why we're not saying baby furniture today.
That's a call there. That's an intelligent call that we do. But a lot of people, so for example, when we were pivoting from baby to adult segment,
we as founders were very confident because we knew our consumers were asking for it. Investors weren't as sure because we had already always pitched the company as a baby care company. And that's where you decide what to listen, what not to listen, and how to convince them. So worst case scenario, let us execute it for 3 months. Let's see what comes out of it, and then we'll take a call, right? Worst case, we lose itna amount of money, but that's the risk that we are taking. I think these 3 things really helped us have a smoother start to the brand build.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for all the insights. We've covered many aspects of starting your own brand. मुझे लोग जब भी मैं पूछता हूँ कि यार D2C brand करें, सब कहते हैं कि यार बहुत मुश्किल है. And it is tough. It is tough. It is a long, arduous journey. We've covered many aspects of it. Hopefully this was useful to many of you folks who are watching, and hopefully some of the fundraising tips you guys will apply when you go out into the market. Until then, keep watching. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
And all the
Thank you for
best.
having us.